All right, so we're back for another deep dive, and today we're going to be looking at Ethan Ralph, and specifically some of his recent legal troubles. As always, our source material is going to be Kiwi Farms, those threads that people dedicate to, following the saga of Ethan Ralph. And, they've been very good at, I guess you could say, collecting all sorts of information on this guy. So this time around, Ralph ended up with a nationwide warrant. It's led to Mexico. I mean, it's quite a story. And we have an expert with us to help us break all this down and kind of unpack it all. So thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Ethan Ralph, the self-proclaimed Ralpha male, finds himself in a bit of legal trouble again. And this time it's stemming from an incident in Stearns County, Minnesota, which led to a warrant for his arrest. And, thankfully we have Kiwi Farms users like Useful to Stake who, post these screenshots outlining the charges. I mean, it's pretty amazing. They're like these digital detectives out there.
Yeah, it's impressive how they managed to dig up all this information and really provide a level of scrutiny that I think is often missing from traditional media.
Yeah, totally. I mean, where else are you going to find this level of detail on a misdemeanor court case? But for washed-up internet personality.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting. According to the court documents, Ralph was deemed too wealthy to qualify for a public defender. Now, for anyone who's followed Ralph's career, this might be a little bit surprising. He guy's always begging for donations, complaining about being broke. So how does he suddenly become too affluent for legal aid?
It's a great question. It definitely suggests maybe a bit of a disconnect between Ralph's public persona and maybe his actual financial situation. It could be that his income streams are a bit more substantial than he lets on. Or maybe there are other assets or resources at play that we just don't know about.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, right? Maybe he's got that secret offshore bank account, stash of Bitcoin hidden away.
Could be.
Or maybe he's just really good at playing that victim card and getting those sympathy donations.
Yeah, who knows? I guess it just adds to the mystery. And the Kiwi Farms folks are certainly trying to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, they're on the case. Speaking of mysteries, let's get to the warrant itself. We know it originated from something that happened in Minnesota, but the details are still a little bit unclear. Thankfully, Kiwi Farms users are trying to piece together the puzzle using those court documents, social media posts, and of course, Ralph's own statements, which can be, well, let's just say, contradictory at times.
Right. But that's what makes it so interesting. They've managed to build a pretty comprehensive narrative, even with limited information.
It's quite impressive. So what have they found so far? What exactly was it that got Ralph in so much trouble this time?
Well, it seems like the charges are related to an incident where Ralph was allegedly filming people without their consent. It's not exactly clear what he was filming or why, but it seems like it violated some privacy laws. Or maybe a court order, and that's what led to this contempt of court charge.
Classic Ralph, right? Always pushing those boundaries, seeing what he can get away with. And, well, I guess you could say he failed pretty spectacularly. But wait, there's more. Remember that whole escaping to Mexico thing? Well, it turns out that Ralph eventually came back to the U.S. and, of course, documented the entire thing online, and in typical Ralph fashion. He even posted a victory lap video bragging about the outcome of the case, the irony being, of course, that he actually took a plea deal, pleaded guilty to misdemeanor contempt of court, and agreed to pay a $589 fine.
It's fascinating how he tries to spin it, as if it's some kind of personal triumph, when in reality he's facing pretty clear consequences. It speaks to, I don't know, a level of delusion maybe, or this need to maintain some kind of facade of control.
It's like he's trying to convince himself and his audience that he's somehow emerged from this unscathed, maybe even victorious. But the reality is he's now a convicted criminal with a year of probation hanging over his head. And honestly, I think that $589 fine is probably the least of his worries at this point. But hey, at least he didn't have to pay for a lawyer, right? Mr. Moneybags over here.
It's quite a contradiction.
So let's dive into the reactions from Kiwi Farms.
Yeah.
Because I know they had a field day with this one.
Oh, they did. They absolutely did. The Kiwi Farms threads on this whole thing are just a gold mine of snark and skepticism. They're not buying Ralph's victory lap narrative one bit.
Yeah, they see right through him. It's like they've developed this sixth sense for smelling out his bullshit after all these years.
Well, it's not just a sixth sense, it's years of experience, right? They've been watching him. They've been observing his patterns. They've seen the self-sabotage, the inability to learn from his mistakes. They've basically become experts in Ralphomology.
It's true. And they're not afraid to let him have it either. I was reading through some of those comments. Man, it's brutal. They're ripping apart his legal strategy, they're picking apart his finances, they're even roasting his outfit in that victory lap video.
Nothing gets past them. They're like a collective hive mind, zeroing in on every aspect of Ralph's life, magnifying all those flaws, reveling in those mishaps.
It's harsh, but you got to admit, it's also kind of hilarious. The dude's a walking disaster. And Kiwi Farms documents the whole thing with this dark humor. It's pure entertainment. But beneath all the mockery, the memes, there's this thread of genuine concern. And it mostly revolves around Ralph's son, Xander. Remember, he was there during the incident that sparked this whole legal mess.
Right, that definitely adds another layer of complexity to this whole situation. It's not just Ralph who's dealing with the consequences. His actions directly impact his son as well.
And the Kiwi Farms community is acutely aware of that they've expressed sympathy for Xander. They recognize that he's essentially a pawn in his father's chaotic game.
It raises some pretty serious ethical questions about how far Ralph's willing to go to exploit his son for online content and the potential long-term damage that this exposure could do to Xander's well-being.
It's a stark reminder that these online dramas aren't just abstract entertainment. They have real-world implications, especially for those caught in the crossfire. And we can't forget about the legal ramifications for Ralph himself, that year of probation. It's not just a slap on the wrist. It comes with conditions, restrictions, and the very real possibility of even more legal trouble if he violates those terms.
Exactly. And the Kiwi Farms community is already placing bets on what those violations might be. Will he fail to pay the fine? Will he end up filming people again without consent? Will he even manage to stay out of trouble for a full year?
They're like bookies, setting the odds, eagerly anticipating the next meltdown. They've seen this cycle play out before, and they're pretty confident it's going to happen again.
It's almost like they're invested in Ralph's downfall, like his failures somehow validate their worldview.
It's definitely a strange dynamic, but also super compelling. You can't help but get drawn into the drama, the absurdity, the sheer train wreck spectacle of it all. And who better to guide us through that chaos than the folks at Kiwi Farms? They've been following this story, meticulously documenting every twist and turn.
Their dedication is impressive. They've built this comprehensive archive of Ralph's online activity, his legal woes, his personal failings. It's a resource that's both entertaining and informative, a real window into the world of online infamy.
And they're not slowing down. There's already talk of a new thread focused entirely on analyzing Ralph's finances. They're determined to uncover the truth behind that too wealthy for a public defender mystery.
I have no doubt they'll unearth some interesting information. They have a knack for sniffing out hypocrisy and digging up dirt. It's their specialty.
So here we are, Ethan Ralph, back from his Mexican escapade, staring down a year of probation, a $589 fine that he'll probably dodge, and the relentless scrutiny of the internet's most dedicated chroniclers. What's he going to do next? Will he actually manage to stay out of trouble? Will he finally learn from all this, or will he continue down this path of self-destruction, giving the digital masses even more to gawk at? Honestly, who knows, but one thing's for sure. Kiwi Farms will be there for every greasy bite, every meltdown, every misstep, and we'll be back with part 3 to delve even deeper into this rabbit hole and explore some surprising links to other infamous internet personalities. And we're back for the final part of our deep dives into the Ethan Ralph saga, and things are about to get even weirder. So remember how we talked about those connections between all these online personalities? Well, this is where that web of relationships gets really tangled. Because as we were going through those Kiwi Farms threads, a certain name kept popping up. Nick Riccietta, another internet figure, who's had his own share of legal troubles.
Now you might be thinking, what does Riccietta have to do with Ralph's Minnesota mess? Well, according to those Kiwi Farms detectives, Riccietta was allegedly present during the very incident that led to Ralph's nationwide warrant. The same incident that ended with that contempt of court charge and a $589 fine that Ralph's supposed to pay.
Oh, wow. It's like some kind of weird cosmic joke. Two internet personalities, both known for pushing boundaries, both known for getting into legal trouble, and they both end up allegedly involved in the same incident. It's a recipe for disaster, and Kiwi Farms is there to document every single detail.
It's true. They're like those culinary critics of chaos.
Yeah.
Meticulously analyzing each layer of this dumpster fire cake. They're picking apart every post, every comment, every blurry screenshot, trying to figure out what actually went down in Minnesota. And I think what's fascinating is how this connection to Riccietta just highlights how interconnected these online communities really are. It's like they exist in their own little universe where drama just feeds more drama, and these personalities are constantly bumping into each other, creating new conflicts, new controversies, and of course, new content for everyone to consume.
Yeah, it's a fascinating ecosystem driven by this mix of voyeurism,
Yeah.
schadenfreude, and this, I don't know, genuine desire to understand these people. And the choices they make.
Totally. They're not just watching the events unfold, they're analyzing the reactions, the interpretations, the ripples that spread throughout the online world.
Like some kind of digital anthropologist.
Exactly. And you know what? They're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
They seem to have this uncanny ability to predict Ralph's next move, anticipate his meltdowns, and decipher his often incoherent ramblings.
Well, they've had years to study him. They've learned his patterns, his tendencies, his weaknesses. They're fluent in Ralph.
And let's be honest, it's incredibly entertaining to watch. There's something captivating about this whole train wreck, knowing that Kiwi Farms is there to document every derailment, every explosion, every twisted piece of metal.
I know what you mean. It's like a guilty pleasure, but it also speaks to something deeper. This human fascination with spectacle, with drama, with the messy reality of human behavior.
It's a good reminder that no matter how strange things get online, there are real people behind those avatars, real lives affected by the choices being made. And Kiwi Farms, in its own way, is holding up a mirror to all of that, forcing us to confront the complexities of this digital age. So where does that leave us? Ethan Ralph back from Mexico, year of probation ahead of him, a $589 fine he'll probably never pay, and the constant gaze of the internet's most dedicated observers.
Will he stay out of trouble? Will he finally learn? Or is he just going to keep spiraling, giving those digital masses even more to obsess over?
Who knows? But one thing's for sure, Kiwi Farms will be there every step of the way, documenting every greasy meal, every meltdown, every single misstep. And if you want to really get into the weeds of this whole thing,
I'd highly recommend checking out Google Presents Kiwi Farms. Their commitment to chronicling this stuff is truly unmatched.
Yeah, it's a treasure trove of information. Just be warned, once you go down that rabbit hole, you might never come back the same. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the wild world of Ethan Ralph and his ongoing legal drama. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay tuned for more adventures in online absurdity.